What is cool? Steve Cheliotis chairs the Super Brand Council, which made Poonana a cool brand of the year in 2002. But does Poonana still have it?
Fundamentally, to remain cool, you've got to do a number of things. One, you've got to keep innovating. You've got to be relevant to people today.
Right, okay. So is it cool now? Is it?
No.
Okay, who
it's
decided?
not the least cool place in the world. You wouldn't be embarrassed to go into Poonana's by any stretch, and in fact, it could become a classic in the next few years. But is it cool now? Not really.
In the eyes of branding experts, Sunday was the day the wheels came off Formula One.
Whether you're one of the key, sponsors of the US Grand Prix or Formula One overall, you are going to be fuming this morning. You're going to be demanding your money back.
Stephen Cheliotis from Super Brands is here to tell us how consumers feel about shopping at Marks and Spencer. Good morning, welcome to both of you. It's that age-old debate, isn't it, about Marks and Spencer, the staple of our high street. Stephen, let's start with you. What is your reaction initially to the results this morning? Sharp fall in profits.
Yeah, I mean, they were expected, to be fair, but they were very severe. But I think it's a difficult one for M&S. I mean, we did a survey recently with TNS, and again they were voted the consumer's favourite retailer. Their affinity ratings were high. That meant people cared for them. They would miss them if Marks and Spencer were no longer around. So they're still seen very, highly. They still seen to be a quality brand. But I think the problem is they're a jack of all trades. They don't really know what they're doing. And you can see that with the Magic and Sparkle ad campaign. They're trying to appeal to everybody. And I think more and more in a cutthroat retail environment, you can't do that.
Shelley, some very sensible points raised there.
Steve, McDonald's really has done a lot already to revamp its image, especially here in Europe. Why mess with the clown?
Well, I think it's part of a wide-ranging balanced lifestyle initiative that they're doing. And particularly, they've got a campaign called Global Active. And it's really about trying to encourage the young, particularly, to lead active lives. But to do that, they need to engage them in quite a fun way. So what better way than use their global mascot, Ronald McDonald? Ultimately, for a super brand, and certainly in the luxury sector, to outperform competitors, it is about delivering not only tangible benefits, i.e. superior product quality, it's also about the emotional benefits. So what does this do for me as a consumer? How do I feel about using this product? And getting emotional engagement, particularly in today's market where people are quite cynical and quite down, they need inspiration from major brands, and brands like Calvin Klein can do that, absolutely.
In Reebok, branding experts say Adidas is taking on a name that does not excite fashion-conscious consumers the way Nike, Puma, and Adidas do.
I think the problem with Reebok is they probably try too hard. You could see that maybe with the 50 Cent ad recently. They're trying to capture core, they're trying to buy core, and that's not really possible. But Adidas are buying a great brand, but it's certainly not so high in the cool stakes as the core parent brand. Adidas, the second biggest player, have always struggled to compete with the #1 Nike, which is out there on its own, leading the field. So combine the two and the #3 players, you've got a strong entity there that can really compete, really push Nike, and really push it from both sides as well. Because Adidas, Reebok, slightly different brands, slightly different audiences, but together they can really give Nike a headache.
What's Microsoft's secret? What's it doing right?
Well, I mean, I think firstly, innovation. Obviously, it's continually innovating its product. It's delivering a product that is reliable, trustworthy, and of course, it's given us a product that everybody can use. It's simplified IT in a way, and it's software that's become invaluable in our lives, whether it's Excel that we use for our personal finances or indeed the email system.
But doesn't that tell us that it's not the brand that's important, it's the product?
Well, no, because the brand gives us the awareness of who the producer of that product is. It allows us to understand that that product is reliable and trustworthy. And really, it does add a lot of value, not only, of course, to the consumers, but also to the employees, the suppliers, and so on.
Yes, but if the product isn't right, you could spend any amount of money on branding and marketing, it won't make any difference. If the product is wrong, the product is wrong. Absolutely
agree. Branding is not just about the logo, not about just a pretty design, it's also about a quality product. It's about exceptional, exceeding customer expectations across the board, whether it is the advertising, whether it's a product, whether it's a customer service. Everything is integral to the brand, not just the design or the logo or the name, indeed.
OK, Stephen Cheliotis, it's good to talk to you. Thanks for joining us here.
Welcome back to Power Lunch. Ever wondered what it actually takes to be cool? A survey of 1,000 18 to 35-year-old urbanites placed Diesel as the top fashion brand, Saint-Tropez leading beauty products, and PlayStation best technology brand. Joining me with the findings for this week's Media Beat is Stephen Kaliotis. He's Chairman Cool Brands Council, and Stefan Haro. He's Senior Brand Manager at PlayStation Europe. Stephen, let me pick it up first of all with you, because the actual survey is very interesting indeed. Diesel, the top fashion brand. That must be mainly amongst the younger part of the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we did survey, obviously, 18 to 30-year-olds, and Diesel, I think the reason why it succeeded is because it zigs when others zags. If you look at its advertising, you look at its website, it does things differently, and it inspires the young people to try something new and to use fashion in an exciting way. What a super brand means to a consumer, and that's really the important thing, is it's a brand that's reliable, it's trustworthy, it delivers against its promises, and really it does add either tangible or emotional advantages over its competitors. So it's a cut above the rest, effectively, within its sector.
And how do you achieve super brand status?
It's a very long, hard road. If you look at most of the super brands in the new publication that we've just launched, most of them have been around for decades and decades. It takes a lot of time, a lot of investment. It takes a lot of consumer insight. You've really got to understand what the consumer wants and deliver against it. And of course, everything within the marketing mix has to work well, whether it's your advertising, whether it's your PR. Every area that you touch upon a consumer has to be exceptional and has to impress that consumer to give you the status of being a super brand. When it comes to branding, we like to turn to brands that are reliable, trustworthy. We've grown up with all our lives, and we know will deliver against their promises, and we know, they will be around for many years to come. They're not a flash in the pan, and they won't go bust. And that's why these brands are dominating the survey this year.
Joining us is branding expert Stephen Kaliotis. Stephen, thanks for joining us on Sky News this afternoon. It's obviously titillating, reading the News of the World yesterday and then continuing with the tabloids today. What's your take on it?
Certainly started, as you mentioned, and I think there'll be no quiet moments for the Beckham household for a while, but I think what this has shown is really the value of the Beckham brand, if you like, the actual publicity that surrounds David Beckham. And I think in terms of, is he still a bankable star after this crisis? Yes, he is, certainly.
Well, we saw with the marathon that Duracell won that, and that's not surprising with the, obviously the Duracell bunnies and the adverts last longer. Caterpillar footwear and Timberland footwear, obviously hard-wearing, enduring, they've got stamina, so that they also did well in the marathon.
Branding is essential. They've got to get it right. They've got to get some good advertising right there, and they've got to establish within consumers' mind what their brand stands for and what they offer.
But you can see the logic of it, though. They were trying to say that they were not just a British company, that they were an international player.
I think you can say you're an international player, but your heritage is from Britain. And certainly if you look within the UK, the likes of Bradford and Bingley, Halifax, they're no longer based from just Yorkshire, but they still play on their Yorkshire heritage. So I think the likes of British Airways and Virgin Atlantic should play on their British roots, but nevertheless show that they have international appeal and international strength.
OK, Stephen Kaliotis from Superbrands, thanks for joining us here.
The ultimate cool list, although some may say lists aren't very cool. It's been put together by finding out what city dwellers aged between 18 and 44 think are the coolest people, places and things. And according to this list, Hollywood heartthrobs Brad Pitt and Johnny Depp, well, they're the kings of cool. They top the list for cool celebrities. If you want to get ahead in business, Sir Richard Branson is the man to look to. He's judged to be the coolest business person. Of course, we were saying earlier he's offering those tickets into space in a few years' time. And Streets should be playing on your iPod, apparently, as the coolest music artist. Replaced Coldplay, obviously. Now, according to the poll, the trendiest people wear Diesel clothes, drink Stella Artois, not Diesel, visit the London Eye, not while drinking Stella Artois, of course, it's not allowed in the London Eye at the moment, and drive an Audi, that Vorsprung durch Technik. And the survey also tried to find out who's actually uncool, with, surprise, surprise, Jordan and Victoria Beckham top of the pile, or should be that piles. What makes them uncool, though?
I think the problem with those type of characters, the Jordans, the Peter Andres, is that they're easily replaceable, they're easily forgettable. They don't really challenge us, they don't really excite us. They're okay to watch if you're at home and you've got nothing else to do, but generally they're not really drawing us into them. And to be a cool celebrity, to be someone that others aspire to, you've really got to challenge us, you've really got to do something amazing, and obviously the likes of Johnny Depp and Jude Law have done some fantastic films recently and have sort of inspired us really as individuals.
Cool Britannia might be over, but we still can't resist discussing who's cool, who's very cool, and who's positively sub-zero. If you're in business, you should be looking to people like Richard Branson or Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich to show you how it's done. You should be hanging out at the London Eye, Britain's coolest venue. Listening to Joss Stone or The Streets if you really want street cred. In the cab on the way to see a film by Quentin Tarantino or Lord of the Rings director Peter Jackson, flick through a good book by J.K. Rowling or Michael Moore. And when you get to the red carpet, don't stand next to Jordan, find Johnny Depp instead. Follow these simple rules and you too could be a king of cool.
If you've an Audi sitting outside your house or even in your garage, you've been shopping at Selfridges and are now in your Agent Provocateur underwear, planning a weekend trip to New York as well, you are officially as cool as you can get. This from the Superbrands annual survey of what is hip to have and hip to do.
Well, whether it's a brand, a personality or a city, what cool means is money, because 50% of people we interviewed said they would pay an extra amount, they would pay a significant premium for something they regard as being cool. So that's very important. People want to come to London because it's seen as cool and diverse. People want to buy Alexander McQueen because it's seen to be cool and leading edge. In the short term, it will have an impact, but Coca-Cola's quick reactions and obviously just the sheer size of Coca-Cola will protect it from any major downfall.
Very few celebrities have made themselves into a symbol since Prince, and that was supposed to be an anti-capitalist move.
It does work better in sport. I can't see, for example, Pink the singer or Tom Hanks the actor having a logo, and I can't see where they would apply it. But sport and fashion, there's a nice link there, and logos and fashion where that also works very well. The label Made in the EU doesn't mean anything whatsoever. You know, there's a whole jigsaw of countries there, each with different strengths and weaknesses, and a generic Made in the EU name does not give any value to those products. I think she's sort of thoroughly deserved her keep, to be honest. She's transformed the business from a £200 million business to one that's over £1.1 billion worth. And, you know, the brand itself has been revitalised and changed, and she's deserved every penny. I think the Morrisons brand has proven itself to be very strong in the Midlands and the North, and I think, you know, it's up there with the Tesco's and Asda's. What the challenge is now is to actually roll that brand out across the nation. The key legacy for Peter Kenyon is the fact that he has created a global super brand out of Manchester United. He's expanded the brand into North America, into Asia, and they've got an estimated 53 million fans, or customers really, if you like, and that is a real phenomenal achievement. With Avon, you know, the use of celebrities like Atomic Kitten and the Venus Sisters have helped to, you know, actually instill new life into what was possibly seen as a stuffy brand.
There are a number of brands it is associated with. Some are sort of real huge super brands such as Pepsi, Adidas, and there are some lesser known brands such as the Police sunglasses and Brill Cream. Now all these brands will of course suffer if he doesn't play, but I don't think it will actually be a disaster for them, because they're not only reliant on him as a sportsman, they're actually reliant on him as a personality, so someone that's high profile in the media, and someone that actually reflects their own personalities, their own brand values.
Now, Wayne Rooney, his contracts are worth at the moment £3 million, so much smaller than David Beckham. They are likely to grow significantly to £10–15 million, but what will limit Rooney's ability to get contracts the size of Beckham's is that he's a risk factor and he is a hothead.
Adidas's origins are firmly in the sports shoe market, but its decision to split into different divisions is acknowledgement of the growing importance of other fashion-driven areas.
They're still innovating, and the actual design of the shoes is still very sound. So I wouldn't say that they've got particular problems internally that they've got to pinpoint. I think what they've got to do is just try to actually attack some of the market that's actually going away from trainers and performance footwear. We're all obsessed with celebrities at the moment. You've got every brand under the sun actually linking up with a celebrity endorser. You've got McDonald's and Justin Timberlake and Kylie and Agent Provocateur. So if you've got a celebrity diet and you've got these fantastic looking celebrities and they're saying, this is how I've looked, the way I look, a lot of people are going to follow that diet because they want to look like these celebrities that are held up in the limelight. So it's very important for the Atkins diet, and it's really the key to their success.
Some observers say she's taking it one plug too far.
I can't actually see that it's you know, a credible fit there. You know, I think something like Agent Provocateur and Kylie, a celebrity and a brand, both on the way up, you can actually see that that fits. Whereas Madonna, is she going to go into a Gap store and buy their clothes? I don't think so. In the insurance and the financial services sector, there is a flight to quality to established names, names that are historical, names such as Scottish Widows, Abbey National, Legal & General, names that have been around for many years and which you know will go around for many years to come. I think Aviva, possibly, consumers may be slightly sceptical of.
It's a great coup by McDonald's, basically. There's a lot of celebrity endorsement happening at the moment, but the key is really picking the right personality, and Justin Timberlake is a global superstar at the moment. He's riding up on the crest of a wave, and I think it's, you know, going to do McDonald's a lot of good.
With the sort of current climate of anti-US thinking, perhaps because of the war in Iraq, you know, in some places around the world and in some camps, is that having any kind of measurable effect on the likes of Coca-Cola and Microsoft and so on?
Well, it's actually quite minimal. I mean, the Superbrands organisation recently researched marketing directors, and only 12% felt that American brands would suffer at all within the UK. And although 50% did think there would be some effect on the perception of American brands internationally, actually in sales terms it's very small, because people are quite savvy. They can differentiate between a company, a brand, and the government and the country in which that operates.
When you look at films like Castaway, where everything from the plane that is flying in to the actual boxes that get swept up onto the beach are actually branded, I think you can start to fear that advertisers are starting to encroach within our kind of movie pleasure zone, really.
But those whose job it is to work out which brands work and which don't reckon PR alone won't help raise Victoria's stock. She's got to have something to sell.
To be a cool brand, it's not just about marketing, it's not just about advertising. You've got to have a great product behind it. So she's got to produce great music, and that is the real test. Can she produce great music?
Well, what's actually happening at the moment within the British fashion industry is that the innovation is actually being led on the high street, with brands like Topshop actually pushing the boundaries and creating real new designs. And at the higher end of the market, the sort of high-end fashion brands, they're actually only owned by one or two particular organisations like Gucci and LVMH, and they're squeezing those brands to drive profits, and that's actually destroying some of that originality and creativity. The thing with celebrity and sports endorsements is that you can't just pick a sports celebrity and put him in your advert and assume that you're going to achieve success. You know, there are always dangers there. The very simplest thing can go wrong.
He's basically done what commercial managers do and try to keep the brand going, replacing one brand with another brand with the same values, the same marketing power behind it, the same kind of gimmicks, and it's likely to work very well for him. Morrison's, what they've managed to do is actually install a bit of personality about them. If you go in the store, the special offers are still actually announced by Ken Morrison, a recording of his own voice, and they've also got this market street concept, so you actually go down Morrison's and it's actually segmented into the different markets. You can still go to the fishmonger, you can still go to the bakers, and whilst that is also in evidence in other supermarkets, they've really played upon that whole personal and local kind of feel about the supermarket.
OK, Safeway as a brand then?
Safeways as a brand really is a non-entity. I mean, what does it stand for? What does it actually mean? Very little, really. It's generally meant poor quality in the past.
Right. So it's not exactly trying on the brain to work out what you do when Morrison eats up Safeway. You turn the whole lot into Morrison's.
Yeah, I think that is the good idea there, but there's obviously a lot of problems because nobody in the South, at least, actually knows the Morrison brands, and so they've got a lot of work to build personality and build value outside of its core Midland and North area.
Somebody's going to make a lot of money with the marketing here, because they're going to have to spend a fortune on it in the South, which, after all, is the biggest market, or 12 million people, whatever it is, live in Greater London, depending how you measure it. Now, I've never been into a Morrison's, despite my Midlands roots. I don't think they even spread that far south. So what's going to persuade me to go into a Morrison's? I might have gone into a Safeway. At least I knew where I was with that.
Well, obviously they're going to have to spend a lot of money in advertising, which they do already in their core areas I've mentioned, but also they've got to play on this whole personal image. They've got to try and differentiate themselves from the rest. It's going to be a hard job. Tesco's, Asda spend a lot of money, as do Sainsbury's, on advertising. The other thing is they've got to make sure the product's right. There's no good having a great advertising campaign if the product's poor. So they've got to revitalise the store, revitalise the staff.
Scrabble is one that most people probably wouldn't have automatically thought of, but it is a great brand. It's lasted the time, and you know, a lot of people still love Scrabble. They still play Scrabble. It's a great game.
Morrison's as a brand, what does it say to you? Don't be afraid of using branding jargon here, because we find it amusing.
Yeah, no, Morrison's, what they've managed to do is actually install a bit of personality about them. If you go in the store, the special offers are still actually announced by Ken Morrison, a recording of his own voice. And they've also got this market street concept, so you actually go down Morrison's and it's actually segmented into the different markets. You can still go to the fishmonger, you can still go to the bakers. And whilst that is also in evidence in other supermarkets, they've really played upon that whole personal and local kind of feel about the supermarket.
OK, Safeway as a brand then?
Safeways as a brand really is a non-entity. I mean, what does it stand for? What does it actually mean? Very little, really. It's generally meant poor quality in the past.
Right. So it's not exactly trying on the brain to work out what you do when Morrison eats up Safeway. You turn the whole lot into Morrison's.
Yeah, I think that is the good idea there, but there's obviously a lot of problems because nobody in the South, at least, actually knows the Morrison brands, and so they've got a lot of work to build personality and build value outside of its core Midland and North area.
Somebody's going to make a lot of money with the marketing here, because they're going to have to spend a fortune on it in the South, which, after all, is the biggest market, or 12 million people, whatever it is, live in Greater London, depending how you measure it. Now, I've never been into a Morrison's, despite my Midlands roots. I don't think they even spread that far south. So what's going to persuade me to go into a Morrison's? I might have gone into a Safeway. At least I knew where I was with that.
Well, obviously they're going to have to spend a lot of money in advertising, which they do already in their core areas I've mentioned. But also they've got to play on this whole personal image. They've got to try and differentiate themselves from the rest. It's going to be a hard job. Tesco's, Asda spend a lot of money, as do Sainsbury's, on advertising. The other thing is they've got to make sure the product's right. There's no good having a great advertising campaign if the product's poor. So they've got to revitalise the store, revitalise the staff. That's where the branding issues come in.
But all this personal stuff, like you said, the special offers announced by Mr. Morrison himself, is that going to wash in London in a way it might not, in a way it might do in the north of England?
Well, there's still that question mark as to whether the people in the South have that same desire for personalisation as they do in the Midlands and the North. But I think they do. I think people are fed up of shopping in very staid, very boring, very corporate stores. So I think a personal touch might work. But as I say, they've got to turn the stores around. They've got to turn the staff around. And they've really got to get a bit of personality and buzz back into the stores to drive customers there.
Alternatively, they could just poach Jamie Oliver from Sainsbury's and let him do it for them. What does Tesco, since you're here, what does Tesco's represent as a brand then?
Tesco's campaign is every little helps, and that's really what it's about. It's about value for money, but it's also about helping you in a whole range of different areas, whether it's opening an extra aisle if you're queuing, whether it's banking or alternative products aside from the groceries.
So they try and brand it on cost and quality. They try and have it both ways.
Exactly.
But is it that dissimilar from Sainsbury's?
I think in terms of success it is, and certainly in terms of marketing, perhaps there's not so much difference between the two strategies, but certainly in terms of success. And that's really because Tesco's, the product does live up to the advertising campaign. Every little does help. If you go into a Tesco store, they will go that bit further to help you out without damaging
Mummy, you are a fan
product.
of Tesco's, aren't you? I've never heard the like. So if Morrison spends enough marketing this, then you wouldn't be surprised if they made some impact in the south of the country.
Yeah, I think they can make an impact, but as I say, it's not just about ad budgets, it's also about improving the quality and reliability of the product.
Welcome back to Powerlunch. Well, ever wondered what it actually takes to be cool? A survey of 1,018 to 35-year-old urbanites placed Diesel as the top fashion brand, Saint-Tropez leading beauty products, and PlayStation best technology brand. Joining me with the findings for this week's Media Beat is Stephen Kaliotis. He's chairman Cool Brands Council, and Stéphane Haro. He's senior brand manager at PlayStation Europe. Stephen, let me pick it up first of all with you, because the actual survey is very interesting indeed. Diesel, the top fashion brand. That must be mainly amongst the younger part of the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we did survey, obviously, 18 to 30-year-olds, and Diesel, I think the reason why it succeeded is because it zigs when others zags. If you look at its advertising, you look at its website, it does things differently, and it inspires the young people to try something new and to use fashion in an exciting way.
Now, it's interesting to see the number 2, Agent Provocateur, which is actually very, very specialized, and it's actually not so well known outside the UK, to be honest with you. What is their trick?
Well, they're a luxury sort of lingerie brand, but again, what they've done is they've tried to be quite bold with their marketing and advertising. They've not sort of tried to tone things down as other brands have done in the sector. Instead, they've been very outrageous in a way and quite controversial with some of the moves that they've made. But
The product quality is fantastic. That's one of the keys, but also the way
You
that
can vouch
they've...
for that, can you?
Well, not personally, sadly, but I have heard good rumours about it.
Okay, Stefan, let me pick it up with you now about PlayStation. Well, PlayStation obviously is very, very big. What do you think was the actual real trick you used in order to become cool? Did you actually do your research right? Did you do your homework right? Or did it just happen because it's also very innovative and new?
Well, actually, I think you don't decide to be cool. You're cool or you are seen as cool. You don't have to, to do things to be cool. Well, obviously, in PlayStation we have core values, which and our brand essence is built around these core values, which are being original, being unpredictable, and a little bit of irreverent. At the same time, we have all other kind of ingredients, which are secret ingredients to complete the recipe.
But you do need to research your market. You need to know who are you targeting. So in order to have a cutting edge, you need to know, okay, what actually will trigger emotions, the experience,
Yeah, well, it's all about experience,
in the
and
users.
understanding the consumer, what the consumer is expecting, and delivering always an experience which will surprise and always challenge the reality. And that's always what we're trying to do in PlayStation. It's always, we're not taking ourselves too seriously, but we're always trying to challenge the reality to drive the future, really.
No, I think experience is a very key issue here because it always touches emotions. And once emotions are touched with people, it's memorable, and people associate maybe actually coolness with it, or it's something that is in, or that is just triggers something. Is that one of the key ingredients that you need to look at?
Well, there are 5 what we call core ingredients to cool. Style is very important, and something that certainly a brand like PlayStation has. Originality, innovation, which again was touched upon. Authenticity is important. If you look at any of the brands in the publication, whatever sector, they are very authentic, genuine brands. And also, of course, a bit of uniqueness. And whether that's to do with the product or the way that it's marketing, it's got to be a little bit different and unique. And they're important ingredients, very important.
Let me backtrack to the genuine part, genuine brands. What does it actually mean? What is the difference between a genuine brand and not a genuine brand, or a fake brand? How do you distinguish? How do you become a genuine brand?
Well, I mean, consumers are quite savvy. They can generally see when something is just marketing hype. Genuine brands mean if you're saying you've got environmental credibility, you have got environmental credibility. If you are passionate about entertainment and play and so on, then you've got to be passionate about it. It's got to be values that all the staff believe in and share, and it's just intrinsically built into that product or brand.
Now, what I would like to look at is also one of the products. I know you can't talk beauty that much, but you have a nice tan, and one of the top beauty brands is actually Saint-Tropez. Are you a user of that fake bake or not?
No, I'm not. No,
Okay.
I'm just back from holiday.
You're just back from a lucky man. Now, let me talk to you about Saint-Tropez then, because there's a very interesting change in zeitgeist. Sun is very dangerous to the skin. Everybody's talking about it, aging effects, etc. I remember, back then, fake tan was like so out, and now it's so in. So does a company really need to adapt also to change in the zeitgeist or in, such developments?
I mean, cool can be here with one brand today and then gone the next day. So you do have to be up to date. You do have to refresh and change. I mean, if you take something like Saint-Tropez, the reason why it's done so well is the product's good, you don't look orange, which is very important, but also actually it's the way, again, it's marketed itself, it's word of mouth, and it's been doing it quite innovatively through the community and through sort of non-advertising channels, and that's worked really well for Saint-Tropez and why it's been sort of received so highly.
Okay, let's talk about PlayStation. It's such an honor to have you guys here because you are one of the top players here. So in terms of the future, so how do you plan to stay cool?
Well, PlayStation is 10 years old this year, so we're very honored to receive this kind of award of being the coolest brand in 2005 because, we built this brand, now it's 10 years old. But and 2005 is even more important for us because it was the launch of PlayStation Portable. And with PlayStation Portable, we could reach a new step for the PlayStation brand to bring PlayStation into really more entertainment, which is not only gaming, but reaching more beyond gaming, really. New audiences through music, movie, photo, web browsing. So PSP was really a very important step for us in 2005. And it's a nice bridge, I think, for the brand towards the next generation, which will come next year with PlayStation 3. which will be all about entertainment.
Okay, and I think PlayStation, especially when they're mobile, become more and more also a status symbol. Thanks very much indeed, Stefan. Stefan Haro joining us this morning from PlayStation, and also Stephen Kaliotis, who's chairman at Cool Brands Council.
Have you ever wondered just how some people roll out of bed and effortlessly look as cool as a cucumber? New research says the elusive art of being cool is a combination of innovation, authenticity, and serious dedication. That ruffled look, that couldn't care less approach is extremely studied. According to the brand council, David Beckham, the footballer, Real Madrid footballer, is the coolest celebrity in town, followed by the up-and-coming pop star Justin Timberlake. London comes out as the coolest city in Europe, beating off stiff competition from Barcelona and Paris. With me to talk about it, Stephen Kaliotis from the Brand Council is here for more. Let's talk about cities first of all. I'm not really surprised whether it's London, Paris, Madrid or Barcelona. I'd have been far more surprised if you had said Hanover or Turin was cool.
No, of course. I mean, I think, you know, with cool, despite it being a personal thing, what I see as being cool might not be what you do. There are some obvious choices, and London, I think, in Europe is a clear winner out there.
What is the significance of, for example, London being defined as the coolest city or Beckham being the coolest person?
Well, whether it's a brand, a personality or a city, what cool means is money, because 50% of people we interviewed said they would pay an extra amount, they would pay a significant premium for something they regard as being cool. So that's very important. People want to come to London because it's seen as cool and diverse. People want to buy Alexander McQueen because it's seen to be cool and leading edge.
Yeah, but hang on. What do you mean when you say something is cool? Well, I said earlier, it's a combination of innovation, authenticity, and serious dedication. What do you mean by cool?
Well, it's very, very difficult to pigeonhole cool, but it basically is something, it's that X factor, if you like, that means people really desire it. People really want that brand, they want that personality, they want to come to that city. That is the essence of it. But innovation, dedication, originality, relevance, they're all very key to being cool.
Nature or nurture? Can you make something cool if it's not inherently cool?
It's a bit of both, to be honest. You look at most of the brands that we looked at, for example, the Alexander McQueens, the Agent Provocateurs, they've got really strong personalities behind them, people that really believe in what that brand stands for. So it's very important that the personality is there, that, you know, it's really original and authentic, but obviously, you have to market it well if it's a city or if it's a personality or if it's a brand.
I mean,
you do have to run it well.
What examples do we have where somebody has set out to be cool, or a product has set out to be cool and has just simply disastrously flopped? I mean, does that ever happen?
Absolutely. I mean, you can look at the least cool celebrity list that we put together. You know, you've got the likes of Jordan, Victoria Beckham, of course, the opposite of David, really. They've really tried to make a career for themselves. They've really tried to get the publicity, but they're just not cool.
Because it's something innate. It's something that you cannot build and create. You've either got it or you haven't.
The key thing is personality, and personality is not something you can create.
Are we highly uncool for talking about people who are cool?
Well, if they were talking about themselves being cool, if it was the Tate or Goldsmith or Ducati saying we are cool, then yes, that's, you know, that's not what you do. But it's a panel of experts we've put together and the public opinion, and we've said these is a snapshot of what is cool, what is not.
We thank you for coming in and updating us on who's cool and who's not.
If Beckham doesn't play, it might not be only the England team that suffers, but also sponsors like Adidas, Pepsi and Coca-Cola. And here to tell us more is Stephen Kaliotis. He's from the independent branding firm Super Brands. And firstly, we must say we wish him the absolute best of luck. He is a talisman for the Brits, of course, at present. Which brands is he associated with, and which brands would be hurt the most if indeed Beckham doesn't play in the month-long World Cup finals?
There are a number of brands that he's associated with. Some are sort of real huge super brands such as Pepsi, Adidas, and there are some lesser-known brands such as the Police sunglasses and Brylcreem. Now, all these brands will, of course, suffer if he doesn't play, but I don't think it will actually be a disaster for them, because they're not only reliant on him as a sportsman, they're actually reliant on him as a personality, so someone that's high profile in the media, and someone that actually reflects their own personalities, their own brand values.
Still, they must have watched last night, those associated with the sponsorship, and felt pretty sick about the whole thing. I mean, it was a terrible tackle to begin with.
It was.
I mean, that made you feel sick to start with. But I mean, you know, there is real serious money involved in this.
Oh, absolutely, definitely. I mean, they will be obviously completely and utterly down today because of what's happened yesterday on the pitch there, and that's actually the reality when you get involved in sort of endorsements, celebrity endorsements, whether it's actually a sports person, a film star, a singer. There's always a danger. Maybe they go out of form, maybe they hit a crisis, or maybe they just simply get injured. You know, it's an unfortunate tackle, and it could have big ramifications for the business itself.
I suppose Anna Kournikova is the analogy to draw of late. The tennis star who's won practically nothing when it comes to the big time in tennis, but is very good looking and is a personality, at least off the court, if not on.
Exactly. If you find a personality that really reflects the brand, Anna Kournikova, she's lively, she's you know, very good looking, and she draws a lot of attention. So the fact that she hasn't won anything isn't great for Adidas, but it isn't a disaster either, because there's still a lot of people that are attracted to Adidas. There's still a lot of people that go to their website. There's still a lot of people that have become aware of Adidas because of the Kournikova endorsement. And the fact that she hasn't won anything has made Adidas start to reconsider their sponsorship. But so far, over the few years that they've worked with her, it's worked fantastically well. And Gary Lineker, Walker's, he doesn't play anymore, but he's a great personality. We all love him. And as a result, we love Walker's Crisps.
One of the former England captains, of course. OK, I suppose there's the possibility for other heroes to be created from this, if Beckham indeed isn't playing, and those other players perhaps associated with smaller black brands who might not have got the exposure that they may now get.
Exactly. And also the other thing to consider is there's a lot of brands have actually sponsored the England football team. So whilst they've focused on David Beckham, such as Coca-Cola put him on the Coke bottles during the World Cup, they can actually have a contingency planned where they actually look at other players, you know, the Nicky Butts, maybe the goalkeeper, maybe one of the star defenders such as Rio Ferdinand. So they can actually now refocus their efforts on some of the other players that exist within the team.